What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video. Now let's talk about the mainstream media for a second, because they are at the center and the forefront of what I want to talk about today. So the mainstream media, for the most part, we're talking about 90%, has been a partisan hack, and they have probably been corporate shields for the establishment left or the Democrats for the most part. Now, the mainstream media doesn't care if you are a leftist, a Democrat, or a libertarian. As long as what you want to say is not following their narrative, they always try to take control of the situation. Because this mainstream media, not just them, as well as social media corporations, have been used to actually keep most of their base, most of these leftists, in some sort of a matrix whereby they don't see the truth anymore. And truth doesn't really matter to the mainstream media anymore. What matters to them is that they win, that they take control, that they keep people's mind in a certain state where they can control the narrative always. And even if one of them tries to stray for a bit, they will try to shut that person down as quickly as possible. And their base, for the most part, love it. Just to make my point, remember when Cruz was on CNN and was talking about Black Lives Matter? The moment he started pointing out the flaws in Black Lives Matter, they actually shut his microphone off, and I think Don Lemon started speaking over him. Same thing happened with Vernon Jones. These people are Democrats. Vernon Jones is a Democrat. I'm not talking about Van Jones. I'm talking about Democrat Rep Vernon Jones. He supports the Republicans because he has seen the truth, and he has sort of kind of like been red-pilled and gotten out of the matrix because he has seen them for what they truly are. So he himself was on MSNBC some time ago, and when they were interviewing him, they tried to tarnish his image by saying that he has, or by insinuating that he has been paid to support the Republican Party, whereas he's still with the Democrat Party. And we've seen them do it countless of times. They've been trying to always do this, and they've always been succeeding. But luckily for us this time around, this was not the case, as CBSN, another left-wing type of a network station, but not so much left-wing as the former two that I mentioned, like MSNBC and CNN, they granted an interview to Trump's lawyer, Micheal Veen, who just won Trump's impeachment trial, and Trump was acquitted, as we all know. So they granted him an interview to which they tried to take control of the situation, as left-wingers would always do. Now, when it comes to these stations, they totally lack integrity. They do not care about the truth. They do not care about bringing people the truth. They just care about controlling the narrative. And this time around, like I said before, it was not the case, as Mr. Veen wasn't really having it. So we are going to be going into this tasty interview that has been making the rounds on the internet. And frankly, I actually did a reaction video to this, but I kind of like fluffed it off when I was trying to make this video on my OBS / my Audacity, and the softwares kind of jam-packed each other. So when I was editing, it really didn't turn out right. So I'm pretty much kind of reporting on this situation a little bit late, but it's better late than never. So we are going to be going through some of the clips from this interview. I'm going to share my thoughts as we go along. Please feel free to share your thoughts in that comment section below. And while you're out there, why not consider hitting that like button on this particular video, as it does massively helps me out. It helps out the algorithm. Many of my videos that you have been hitting that like button has been helping me reach out to more and more people, and I would massively appreciate it as well. And while you're down there, please do consider subscribing to the channel as well. Now that we have got all those mumbo jumbo out of the way, let's get straight into the meat and potatoes of this video. So, CBSN granted an interview to Trump's impeachment lawyer, Micheal Veen, and they started off by asking him what they thought about Mitch McConnell's closing statement, to which Mitch McConnell was insinuating that Trump was liable for the so-called insurrection. I call it riot at the Capitol, but you know, tomato, it doesn't matter. To which he gave this particular response.
Let's get right into those words that we heard from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. He ended the trial with this passionate speech about President Trump's involvement in the insurrection. During it, he said that the former president is still liable for everything he did during his period in office. Are you expecting to face more charges against Mr. Trump in the near future, and do you anticipate being part of that defense?
No, that's just political rhetoric, and I was hopeful that something would come out of this, that the political rhetoric would stop out of Washington, D.C., but I guess apparently it hasn't.
Now, the CBS anchor, obviously taking notes from his producers, wasn't really satisfied with the sort of answer that he gave, because that was just a political statement that Mitch McConnell gave, and they were playing politics as usual. They knew that Trump would not be impeached, but still they wanted to play politics with the American people's taxpayers' money. Didn't matter to them. So apparently, the CBS anchor wasn't really satisfied with the answer, so she tried to rephrase the question again by trying to rope him into a corner or back him into a corner where she could actually go for the kill. But this is what transpired instead.
Were you, though, surprised to hear those words coming from the leader of the Republican Party in the Senate?
I'm not surprised to hear a politician say anything at all.
So after that, the interview went on to a point where Michael Van der Veen actually pointed out that the Democrats brought in a false evidence to try to make a claim to link Trump to inciting of the violence that occurred on January the 6th.
What happened at the Capitol on January 6th is absolutely horrific. But what happened at the Capitol during this trial was not too far away from that. The prosecutors in this case doctored evidence. They did not investigate this case, and when they had to come to the court of the Senate to put their case on, because they hadn't done any investigation, they doctored evidence. It was absolutely shocking. I think when we discovered it and we were able to expose it and put it out, I think it turned a lot of senators. The American people should not be putting up with this. They need to look at who these House managers were and look to see whether these are the folks they want representing them. It was shocking to me.
Which is a very abhorrent thing. So the interview got to a point where Michael Van der Veen actually pointed out that the Democrats produced a false evidence to try to link Trump to the incitement of the violence, which was the reason why he was actually facing the impeachment in the first place. But guess what the CBS anchor did? She tried to make light of that particular point that he made, because they don't want their own people hearing about the Democrats actually falsifying evidence, which is something very usual. It is not surprising. It is not a wow moment, but I'm pretty sure a lot of Democrats out there wouldn't have known that during this impeachment trial that the Democrats actually tried to falsify evidence. Just take a look at how she tries to deal with the situation at this particular point, which is what the media usually do.
Wouldn't have believed it.
Let's follow up with a point that you're making right now about the House managers, as you say, doctoring evidence, and the argument.
They didn't deny it.
Viewers,
they didn't deny it. I put it in front of them 3 times.
To be clear for our viewers, what you're talking about now is a check mark. That's a verification on Twitter that did not exist on that particular tweet. A 2020 that should have actually read 2021, and the selective editing, you say, of the tapes. Is that the doctored evidence of what you're speaking?
Wait. That's not enough for you? That's not enough for you?
Wait. No,
sir,
no. I am not a juror in this trial. What I'm trying to be clear for our viewers is what you're referring to, because not everybody has been following.
It's not okay
not everybody,
to doctor
sir,
a little bit of evidence.
Respectfully. I have not said it is okay.
Ma'am, your question is
I want to be clear for our viewers.
Listen, what has to happen is
about what exactly you're saying when you say doctored evidence.
The media has to start telling the right story in this country. The media is trying to divide this country. You are bloodthirsty for ratings, and as such, you're asking questions now that are already set up with a fact pattern. I can't believe you would ask me a question indicating that it's all right just to doctor a little bit of evidence. There's more stuff that we uncovered that they doctored, to be frank with you.
So after a minor exchange between both of them, Michael Van der Veen decided to let it rip on the media and told the American people who has been at the base of the divide that they are currently facing and experiencing. And this is what he had to say. It was absolutely glorious, and I loved it.
But what should happen is somebody should look at the conduct of these House managers. It's unconscionable. Aside from all of the due process violations that my client had, And the media should be looking at a square, straight way. When I watch the news, I watch one station and it's raining. I watch another station at the same time and it's sunny. Your coverage is so slanted, it's got to stop. You guys have to stop and start reporting more like PBS does rather than a TV news show that doesn't have any journalistic integrity at all.
Now, at this point, the anchor was really speechless because she knew that he was telling the truth and she really didn't have an answer. So she was trying to backpedal everything back to somewhere else where they can talk about something totally different. But I don't think Michael Van der Veen was having it. He said what he needed to say. He beat down the media, telling the American people exactly what has been going on.
What I'm telling you is that they doctored evidence. And I believe your question says, well, it's only a Twitter check and changing a year of a date here. They switched the date of a Twitter a year to try to connect it to this case. That's not a small thing, ma'am. The other thing they did is they put a check mark on something to make it look like it was a validated account when it wasn't. And when they were caught, they didn't say anything about it. They didn't even try to come up with an excuse about it. And that's not the way our prosecutors or our government officials should be conducting themselves. And the media shouldn't be letting them get away with it either. I'm tired of the biased media on both sides, left and right. What this country wants, what this country needs, is this country to come together, to take the left and the right and find a middle ground and start responsibly being our public officials, our elected officials. And one of the reasons why they do it is because of the media, because the media wants to tell their narrative rather than just telling it like it is. And frankly, I'm tired of it. I'm not a media. I'm not in front of your cameras all the time. But what I've been subjected to this last week.
How they have been partisan hacks for both sides. We're talking about looking at one station and they say it's raining, and you're talking about another station and it says it's sunny. It is just weird. It's absolutely absurd. And these stations and the media company have become echo chamber for each side. You can say Fox News or Newsmax, but I do like Fox News for one thing. Every now and again, they do not care if you are even from the Republican side of things. If you're doing something that is wrong, you will be called out. Just like that time when Tucker Carlson called out, what's her name? The Kraken lady. I can't remember her name right now, but he called her out for not having proper evidence to back up the claims of election fiddling. And that's, I know a lot of people on the right were like, Tucker Carlson is a traitor, but the thing is, Tucker Carlson was standing for what is fact. Facts do not care about your feelings. Fact is not saying the right is always right, because sometimes people on the right can be wrong as well, right? We're people. But all in all, I was so glad that this interview that happened actually happened on CBS network, and it wasn't on something like Fox or what have you. It was on CBS, and CBS is for the most part very leftist based. And so they would have a lot of people from the left or Democrats that were actually watching this, and maybe some of them, I wouldn't be holding my breath on this one, maybe some of them would need to start asking questions of their leaders, because this is totally abhorrent. This is totally wrong. And I know a lot of people from the left do not get the truth, that their people always try to manipulate situations. This wouldn't be the first time that we are seeing things like this coming from the left. Remember how they tried to push the AOC story when AOC was actually accusing Ted Cruz of attempted murder on her life, saying that Ted Cruz must have sent people to attack her while she was trying to play a victim being in the Capitol during the time of the rioting in DC. Now, it turns out she really wasn't in there, but that wasn't the way that the media played it initially. It was later on that evidence started coming out. This goes to show you that media, they don't even investigate these days. They just follow whatever it is that their corporate leftists and their establishment Democrats tell them to do. They just like follow them because they are mostly shields for the Democrats, and that's what they've been doing. So we saw what they did with AOC. And what about Cuomo? Cuomo was even given an Emmy, for goodness sake. And this is why every now and again on this channel, I talk about entertainment, because they're all interwoven. We're talking entertainment, we're talking mainstream media, we're talking social media. They're all interwoven. And we found this out from one of the stories that I covered from Time Magazine, talking about how a cabal got together to so-called fortify the US election. Remember that video? And part of what they mentioned was there were people from the left all over. They all got together to make sure that the election was fortified. They hired people to actually conduct the election on the election ground. I'm talking about poll workers. They hired poll workers. Is that even legal? And they were boasting about it, and the media made it look like it was something that was good. So, talking about Cuomo before I went on a tangent, Cuomo, who was given an Emmy, was being praised by all these superstars, all these actors, including one of my favorites, Robert De Niro. They were all praising him. We're talking Mark Ruffalo. That guy, I do not agree with his politics at all. He's somewhat of a nut job, I would say. I'm sorry. On Twitter, he is somewhat of a nut job. But yes, those guys, they were praising Cuomo. Now, turns out Cuomo was lying the whole time, lying about the number of Kofifi deaths, right, on his Kofifi briefing, so right, and it turns out he said there were over 9,000 deaths, but investigation from the American district, from the New York Attorney General stated that there were over 15,000 deaths from nursing home, and they were all his fault because he actually put policies in place that enforced nursing homes to accept Kofifi patients into those nursing homes that led to all those deaths. But guess what they did? He blamed Trump. And guess what the media did? They backed him up, right? Same thing goes for the big man himself. Don't even get me started on the Hunter Biden story. Oh, nothing to see here. Don't look at the curtains. Don't look behind the curtains. Nothing to see here. And right after Biden wins, then story starts popping out from CNN itself that Hunter Biden is under FBI investigation all of a sudden. Once again, another way that the media has been covering up for the corporate left and the Democrats consistently. Need I mention the mostly peaceful protesting as well? Well, the list goes on and on and on. And I am so happy that somebody like Micheal Veen, remember that name, I will never forget it, came out on their own station, on their own ground to take them down. It is glorious. It is beautiful. And it is delicious. But anyways, you guys, that's all I got for you. You guys, I could talk about this for hours, but I want to hear what you have to say in that comment section below. Now, I always read those comments, and please do keep them coming. I appreciate them. There is so much to talk about. There is so much happening to learn, and I do learn from you guys whenever you leave those comments below. And even when you're pointing out my flaws, I appreciate it, and I always try as much as possible to make adjustments as I go along. Thank you very much, you guys, for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to hit that like button. It is important, massively important, that you hit that like button because it really does help my video out. And if you want to get more information from news or entertainment industry, things that are real and things like Star Wars and what have you, let me know in that comment section below because I do love it, and it's one of the reasons why I started this channel. And as I've explained before, most of the things happening are interwoven, whether in the movie industry or whether in the political sector. So everything is interwoven. And if you talking about movies these days, like the things that happened to Gina Carano, it was strictly based on politics. It might seem like we're talking about the movie industry, Hollywood or what have you, but it was strictly based on her political views that happened to her. So I will be covering most of these things more and more as we go along. I make at least 3 videos a week nowadays. Thank you guys for watching. I will be catching you guys again real soon. Peace, and Saya's out of here. Catch you guys on the next one.